Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Azthengar. Let's play part two. So, yesterday I wanted to do something different. I wanted to expand on a new portion of the map. A place far away, almost like a mystical, whimsy place. Because I want to restructure the whole thing. I want to move the player start from the first floor in Azthengar's castle and actually put it far away, far away in a different location. So the player has to work for it. Because originally this game I've been working on has been nothing but just the tower, enemies, and that's about it for me. I was kind of like one of those guys. I was like, okay, well, I did this and whatever, and I'll move on, right? And then all of a sudden, I got bit by the programming bug yet again and decided to expand the entire game world. Since I've lost my job and all, I'm a fucking bum, fucking sitting on the couch doing chores around the house, you know, fucking sick of it. I'm just sick of it. I'm kidding, of course. But really, like, I kind of see it as a blessing, and it's also a curse, too. It's kind of like waking up, after having a great night. You're having a wonderful night. There's drinks, there's laughter, people are hanging on to your every word. And then all of a sudden, you wake up and in a bathtub, and your kidneys are missing. Then you start thinking to yourself, well, I got all the time in the world now. I can, work on the game. But I don't know why I used the kidney analogy for that, but anyways, I'm able to work on the game now more, and it's actually really nice, and I love it. I drop the kids off, I come home, I do dishes, I tidy, then I work on the game, get stuff for dinner, cook, pick up the wife from work. It's just I don't know. I don't mind it as much, don't get me wrong. I'm staying in the routine of waking up early, going to bed at the same time, so nothing out of the ordinary happens. But I am gonna update my resume here on the weekend and then start looking for work, on Monday. I figured why the heck not? Because in all honesty, it's something, you nobody should have to look for work, right off the hop. You should have a couple days off to yourself, just decompartmentalize all that shit that happened and what have you. But yeah, uh, just the one thing I'm gonna say, I'm not upset. I'm actually was really, really thankful. And you'll notice that in this new portion of the game I'm going to show you guys because I did this last night. I was tired, but I was like, no, I want a village in the game, kind of like something out of no, it's hard to explain, but I always love the fact that in fantasy games, you think to yourself like, oh man, this is really great. I wonder what the future is like for these going to be for these characters and what have you. And at the end of it, you're like, oh, okay, well, hey, there's a spaceship over there. I think it was Final Fantasy had the spaceship. And it's kind of like, wait, there's spaceships and aliens and what have you? So a part of me was just wanting to make kind of like my own Xanadu, because the very idea of Xanadu is something really great. And to me personally, I love the idea of a hidden of a hidden location somewhere in the middle of nowhere, just being able to excuse me, just being able to like venture and see like a totally different side of everything. Plus, I find that it was actually a lot of fun to be able to create this place and to try to try to see what would fit for me, in making additions to this game. Like I said before, I'm going to be moving the castle. The castle's going to stay the same, everything's going to stay the same, but the player is going to be on the other side of the world. So what I'm doing here, instead of starting at square one, I've had the entire center of the world in the game is surrounded around Azthengar's castle. But the thing is, that's the end of the game, right? To me, that's the end. Once you reach that and you make it through the 200 floors, that's the end of the game. But the thing is, though, right after you beat the game, and I made this change in the game, and I'm not going to show you because I don't want to spoil the ending, but a doorway opens up and you return it to the spot in the forest on the way to the forest, not the forest, the mountain village, the farming community in the mountains, which I know sounds weird, but believe me, when you see it, it makes sense, okay? So that was kind of the whole point of it, was that now that with the castle done and everything done, I really want to expand the game. And I said it earlier in my previous video that I really think I should write a book about the mythology of the game's world, you know? And it's just one of those things where you're able to sit down and just relax with the game, you know? Just being able to make something that's almost like really, really crazy to me, you know? I never thought I'd be able to expand the game's world like this. And it's one of those things where I'm just like, you know what? This is actually really neat. I should also make a change in that too. Because right after you hit the villain, villain NPC, whatever, it just keeps going. So if you hit it multiple times, you get multiple hits in. So I'm thinking about, well, making sure that once the player makes contact, there's a 3 second delay. Because I've noticed that the NPCs follow that rule, you know? So why can't the player? Like, watch here. Not even touching the key. But being off has really opened my eyes to about like a lot of this creative stuff I'm able to put into the game. And having time to just unwind and shut the outside world off and work on it. You know? It's it's like a work of art in a way. Creating a place of your very own, you know? Originally, originally I wanted the knight to be a girl. And before anybody says anything, it's not for what you think. It's because my daughter really, really likes action adventure stuff. And, you know, the game's not woke. I have a daughter who loves action and adventure. And I have a son that loves science fiction and outer space and aliens and what have you. So so being able to make something that, you know, that is fun and for my kids is something really great, you know? My kids love this game, you know? They play it all the time. And I'm not just saying that just because, you know, they're my kids and whatnot, and this is like a Meghan Markle situation where, people are always asking, do I actually have kids? No, I have kids. I have two kids, a son and a daughter, and a lovely wife, and a cat named Princess Kenny. So so you see kind of combinations of things in this world. Like my daughter really loves the fantasy aspect of everything. She loves tales of knights and, fairy tales and what have you. So, you know, that's why in the game the knight is just a knight. You don't know the gender of it. And the reason why is because old school video games, unless they told you, was always ambiguous because men and women played the games, boys and girls played the games. Now everything's one sided. Now everything's like, oh, it's got to have a woman in it. Oh, where's the minority representation? Oh, and being and seeing that, it's like, wait a second, me, old, grew up in a biracial household, so being able like that whole notion of that is just nonsense. People don't give a shit. Did people care that Luke Skywalker was white? No. They only made an issue of it because of stupidity. And I'm going to stand on that, because I always liked Luke Skywalker. I don't like him now. I think Mark Hamill's is a fucking idiot. Just for the motion of, you're part of something, don't alienate where the money comes from. You expect people to pay what? What was that idiot charging? $500 for a signed photo? Like, come on. Really? You think you're that high and mighty that you need $500 for a signed photo? You're worthless. You were only good in 3 movies. Oh, sorry, 4 movies, because Batman, the animated series, the movie, The Phantom Knight, or whatever. That was a good movie. I love that movie. And really, really, you should just be thankful that people even remember you. You know, like, come on. And and that's the thing too, though, is that these are all just distraction points. Politics and video games and whatnot, and movies and shit. Like they're there to distract you because these people are embezzling money. These people are stealing. They're robbing. They're pulling the producer's trick where everything they make is a failure so they could take the tax return money because you get more money if your project fails at the end of the tax season. So that's what they do. So they're making garbage knowing that no one's going to see it because they get more money from taxes on their tax return than they do from box office results. And that's what we're seeing now. We've seen, like, honestly, like ever since George Lucas sold Star Wars, like even before that, like it was always like that. Like how much? I bet you anything. George Lucas's tax returns were fucking phenomenal after right before the prequels came out. Because what did he do? Sold toys and video games. There was no movies coming out, so he was making profit off that. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's all ridiculous, but really, like, leave politics out of shit because really you're just gonna harshen the financial intake on your product. Once you start doing that and gender swapping and race swapping and all that stuff, it really just shows that you have no creative motivation to do anything. Um, and but yeah, that's just what I think. So I'm kind of in the notion that old video games, that didn't tell you the gender or the race of the person was always ambiguous because they want the player to feel like it's them. When I played Yar's Revenge as a child, I had an Atari 2600 that my father bought me for Christmas. And
Welcome to Azthengar.
sorry, I just like that part. And it was one of those things where I'm kind of like, I was playing Yours Revenge, and I just was blown away by it. I saw myself as that flying space fly. I didn't dress up like a fly. That's stupid. But I always saw myself as that main character of the game, traveling through all these areas and defeating the villain to make it. To win. Kind of like Adventure for the 2600. Always saw myself as that square, that square of pixels. And you know, there's nothing to it. It's like you're a square and you got to slay a dragon and you got to get, a key to get into the castle. And to me, that stuff was cool. It's that simple mindset of game developing where it's like you're there to tell a great story and to make the player feel like they've accomplished something they could never accomplish in real life. That's why I think a lot of that's why you look at the whole trend of cowboys in media. Like, yeah, there are cowboys and what have you, but this notion of people running around on horseback with rifles and killing cattlemen and stuff like that, and thieves and being attacked by Native Americans. It's all this stuff that you look at and you're like, well, nobody could do that in the 50s or the early 60s, so let's do that now so people feel like, hey, we can expand and the American way or what have you. And that's just the way, I see media as. But anyways, that's just me and that's just my opinion. So take that as you will. But I do agree everybody is equal, but to an extent. I saw this one documentary on where people had this robot fetish. And this robot fetish thing, this guy was like hypnotizing a girl or something to be a robot because that was like his thing. And I don't know if it was a costume or not, or she like taped, double-sided taped like motherboards and circuitry to her, so she could like be with this guy who's who's trying to hypnotize her. It was crazy. It was one of those movies, those documentaries I watched with the wife, and I just couldn't for the life of me imagine.
Welcome to Azthengar.
I couldn't imagine having to sit in a room with somebody who's got this weird freaking fascination that's in this like sexual thing that really makes you want to hump somebody covered in like circuit boards and stuff. To me, that's just insanity. You know, and I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking like, "Hey, guy whose name I don't know, who's working on a game like this that I've never heard before. You know, what the heck are you talking about? Taping motherboards to your self and what have you? Well, it was just so ridiculous. I remember watching it with the wife, and we were just laughing. Then there was this other one about this this video game simulator or whatever, where it's like Second Life, I think. And if you guys remember Second Life, you can understand there's a bunch of loony people that really, really got into it. Like everyone thinks like, you know, everyone's like a huge nerd in Star Wars and stuff, and you know, it all started with them and what have you, you know, with just going over the edge and really loving stuff, you know, just really loving it and getting really into it. But Second Life was way worse, in my opinion. You know, these are just my opinions, people, okay? No one's even listening, so I don't know what to say about that. But they met, and then like one was across the country and he went over to see her, and I think like they both left their spouses because they were having like virtual affair with each other. And then like they move in or and it's weird. It's like they had no idea how to connect, how to how to even act like a couple because in the end they they forged their relationship online in this virtual reality world. They couldn't talk amongst each other or do anything together in real life, in the real world, because they were like the novelty was them online. And at the end of the day, that's what got them, you know? But anyways, people are ridiculous. And I know a lot of you guys are seeing me turn on God mode, and that's because I want to test out this area and show you all what I mean, you know, show you all what I've been working on. Because I'm not even gonna lie, like with nobody around, making these videos has actually been kind of therapeutic in a way. I'm able to actually speak my mind and, you know, within reason. Like I'm not a monster or anything like that. I just think when you politicalize anything, you know, it's it just shows that you are creatively and morally bankrupt and you have nothing to offer the world. That's just my opinion, you know? So if you're in the world of creating something and it's nothing but political and like you know a thin veil of like a fantasy or science fiction or whatever, then I'm sorry. There's nothing to you, and whatever substance you're trying to create, it's gonna fall flat, and it's not gonna be pretty, is what I'm gonna say. Because you know if you're morally or creatively bankrupt as it is, then what's the point, right? What's the point of me buying your product? It's remember 2016 Ghostbusters? How the big deal, like the selling point, and this is how stupid people are. The selling point wasn't the story or the direction it took or anything. It was that notion of gender swapping characters. And that was it. That was their selling point. It's like, hey, you like Ghostbusters, but you know, what if we have them all female? Like, it doesn't matter as long as the story's good. But when you have a bunch of unfunny people making something with no creative control and it's just there because I swear to goodness, they spent $1 billion on like Sony did on this whole like production thing because they thought it was going to kick off. And if you want And if you want to just think to yourselves, I wonder what their tax break was, knowing that it failed and they lost all that money, because you gotta post your losses too. So if you're gonna post your losses, and lose $1 billion or whatever, then all this other money from the movie, and then cry and play the victim. I'm sorry, I can't see you as a victim. You know, because in all honesty, you're just as guilty as the people behind the scenes pushing everything. I don't know. I don't know. Wait, what do I know? You know? What do I know? I'm able to have kids, I'm able to have children. But hey, what do I know? Oh, the forest beyond. So yeah, so I really wanted to expand the world. I wanted to make something special, and I feel like, and I know you look at the faces or whatnot, and they look like blocks and stuff like that. That is because I'm using QBasic. I didn't. I could have used like realistic images and whatnot, but again, I'm not talented, and I'm poor, so I can't afford an artist to make images of like facial reactions to like characters. But there's something charming about it. You know, there's something really charming about it because it just takes me back to those days of playing old school fantasy RPGs. You know, like the Sierra computer games or whatnot from the 80s and 90s, and it's just I don't know what I'm trying to say, but what I'm trying to say is that believe me when I say this, I'm a happy fellow working on this game. Man, my phone is blowing up. Ugh, fucking emails and reward stuff and Spaceballs. Jesus Christ. I have no faith in that movie whatsoever. And it's not for what you think. It it's just it's over. you know? Like this is what I'm talking about. Morally corrupt, bankrupted people who are trying who are, reminds me of that South Park episode where, back to the Cold War, where where everybody thought life was great back then, where life was perfect. And and it wasn't. And for whatever reason, people cling to old media like that. And I know I'm guilty of it too. But, you know, I don't have any faith in Spaceballs too. It's just something I don't have faith in. You know, there's been a slew of remakes and retellings and whatnot, and it's just stupid and pointless. So so why should I care? You know? Ooh, Lady of the Water. Past this clearing waits the archivist's champion. Campaignian. Take the sword of the archivist. It is the strongest blade in the land. Will you face the knight who seeks you for battle? Yeah. Well, wife's texting me. Let me see if I can do this. See? Boom. Bandit camp. I gotta deal with this too. The dying screen when you transfer over to another stage. Okay, and I know yesterday you saw this village, not village, sorry, the bandits camp, and it was completely different. Looked once, something looked back. Are you going to make it stop? Yes. Yes, I am going to make it stop. Sick and tired of all these shenanigans. Knight worthy of the people, hear me from my tent. Past this fire, the burial ground has turned putrid with the stench of death. Vanquish the flesh-hungry dead, so our ancestors can rest in peace. Sure. I don't know why I did that in a weird southern voice, but oh, stay down. Look, I got the sword of the archivist. So with the mountain path, I wanted to kind of have this like moment of oh crud. Here, let's listen to it. So this is the music. I wanted something eerie, something profound, something fills you with dread. Okay, that's enough. The music. Ooh, Mountain Path. And I also took it upon myself so that when when you go to a place, because before when you go to a new section of it, let's say you play the whole area, then you go into the castle, the enemies on the first floor are still with 9 HP, 10 HP. So I put a balancer, and I'm calling it, I put a balancer in there, whatever, because I wanted to balance the game out where the player's HP, attack, strike, armor, experience, or whatever reflects the whole game. So if you have like a strike of, let's say, 200, which you can get if you beat Azthengar right off the hop. So you get that huge that huge stat boost or whatever, and then you go back to over here and meet the lady in the water to get the sword of the archivist. The enemies would still be at like beginning stats. So the whole game is balanced out now. So the HP and the strike match that of the NPCs or similar to it. So the game is more fair and balanced rather than just an easy slog fest. Killer Snowman. Look at that. Damn it! Can't show you this really cool spot. Okay.
Welcome to Azthengar.
Okay, I gotta just focus and just trudge along. What is going on? Cheese and crackers. My wife just told me, she says, okay, she wanted to know if I was home because I had to run some errands for the kids and, recycling. She's like, okay, I just put $50 on our PlayStation account for you to buy a game. Look at that! You know? Cheese and crackers, aren't I a lucky fella? And that's not snarky or sarcasm or anything like that. This is just how I talk. And I know it comes off as kind of confrontational at times or, nitpicky or whatever. I've been told that multiple times. Like, people are like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. What do you ask? It's like, oh, you don't seem yourself today. And I'm just like, no, I'm tired. This is how I always am. But I don't know, I guess it throws some people off. I hope it doesn't throw any of you off because all two people who watched my last video, that meant something to me. That's awesome. I appreciate that. That's still more people watching me play my game that I made from scratch in QBasic than people who watched Meghan Markle's From With Love from Meghan. And I know what you're saying. You're probably thinking to yourself, Dave, what? Oh, I mean, Frank, oh, who cares anymore? You're probably thinking to yourself, hey, why do you keep bringing up Meghan Markle? Okay, like, what's the deal? And the deal is, I think she's batshit crazy, allegedly batshit crazy. I'm not here to badmouth people. I'm not here to do any of that. But I watched her show With Love from Megan on Netflix, and the thing is, you have to understand. All right. Yesterday, I was bored out of my mind. All right. I tidied up. I made dinner for the kids and the wife. I just did some shopping and, took care of the cat. And I was bored. And I was like, okay, I need a good laugh. I hear a lot of people making fun of this show or whatever, so I'm going to watch it. So I sat down and watched it. I only watched 2 episodes so far, and it made me feel good about myself. Literally. I lost my job Wednesday, okay, and got laid off. I didn't lose the job because I got fired or anything like that. It was just laid off, and then I watched it, and it made me feel good about myself, knowing that I'm a better person than Meghan Markle. You know, I'm somebody who's genuinely nice to people, and I don't need to make up stories about myself to make myself look good. You know, just look at the game. Like, just look at the game. Like, I'm not saying this game's good, but like, I don't think Meghan Markle can make a game. Like, come on, let's face it. She can't even do a show. Like, God, give me a Netflix special. You know, I'd love to have a Netflix special where I'm just sitting around eating beef burgers and just talking. You know, hell, I'll start a barbecue and just like go hang out with you guys and cook burgers and just shoot the shit and talk about why everything's crap. Got you a treat at the store. And thank you. You are the best. With love from, uh, what should I put? I'll just put my name. Making this really awkward for her. She's a big deal at the Cracker Factory, you know. I couldn't make it at the Cracker Factory. I was just one guy, you know. I found out what they put in the secret sauce at the burger joint, so that's why I lost my job. That's what I've been telling people because it's funny. It's a lot funnier than saying like, "Hey, I got laid off because of lack of work because of tariffs and the ongoing insanity of the world." You know, so just telling people like, "Yeah, I got laid off because I know what they put in the secret sauce." It just makes me just laugh. I'm sorry. You gotta laugh at the situation. You can't take shit seriously. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Ah, hell with it. Woods Bandit. Oh yeah, I just knocked him out. Like this is fun. Like I love this shit. Sitting around the house after a hard day of, programming and asking myself what I want to do with my life now. Don't get me wrong. Like I love warehouse work. Warehouse work to me was is the best. You know, when I was younger, I was given the opportunity to because I outshined everyone in my class, and I wasn't happy. You know, I had a nice big house. I had a nice car. I was really motivated. It was something nice, and I had to walk away from it because I wasn't happy. And I remember because like I come from nothing. All right, like I come from nothing and no connections, no money whatsoever. I wasn't happy. Like I look in the mirror every day and I'm like, boy, this sucks. I was engaged to somebody else and I was just like, man, I hate my life. So I decided to change it. I was like, okay, whatever. So one night I packed up everything and just left. And 6 months later, I was rebuilding because obviously I wasn't happy. And what was it? It wasn't 6 months. Sorry, it was 2 years later. I met my wife, the woman that would be my wife, and I've never been more happier. You know, sometimes you got to look out for you, and sometimes you've got to pick yourself up and rebuild. And that's what I did. You know, it sucks having to like rebuild. Believe me, it really sucks having to rebuild. But I already got that. Speak to the Lady of Stillwater. See, that's another thing I should do. Passless clearing waits the Archivist champion, which is a bigger, stronger knight. Take the sword of the Archivist. It is the strongest blade in the land. Will you face the knight who seeks you for battle? So the whole notion of this entire game is that I want the player to feel, and you'll see a part in the game where the player is told something that's one of those things where you're kind of like, wait, what? Here, I'll just because this guy's freaking tough. So the story with the Archivist Champion is that it's this big barbarian, right? Like a giant. Kind of like Goliath from the biblical story. Just a monster giant, right? Who's just who's like a gladiator who killed everything. And got sequestered to this clearing because there's no use for him anymore because he's old. So it's this kind of fight that this person, it's this former champion, and these are all trials and tests. And I really like that about games is when they kind of give you these trials and tests. Like you can go off the beaten path and fight gladiators, you know. Heck yeah, you want to go, And I did notice this, and don't take it out on me because I gotta fix it. There was mention of wolves with rabies. And the wolves with rabies have not been added yet. But I was thinking about changing that to like, spiders or something. But you already saw the spiders. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe I won't put wolves in. I don't like hurting animals. I hate when video games have that. But I do understand it because you need that contrast of reality, of free will. And I understand that. Like I used to play Skyrim and just laugh my butt off because I was just killing, those wolves off nonstop and taking their pelts and then trading them, and that's how I would get rich in Skyrim. But nowadays I'm kind of like, I know that it's just video game characters, but whatever. See, death takes the monster. The grown-ups say not to look north when the graves start moving. I looked once. Something looked back. Are you going to make it stop? Well, yes. Yes, I am. Person who's named Tent Child. What the? What are you doing here, skeleton man? Burial ground zombie. I love the fact that you could talk to the chief and he's like, oh, look, all these zombies are out. And you kind of look around and you can't really see much, and you're like, what? Oh, no, okay, this is probably just some kind of like joke or something. But in reality, it's like, no, dude, there's like zombie skeletons coming. Let's see, burial ground zombie, boom. Can you imagine you're living in the woods with your tribe, and all of a sudden, like, like three zombies pop out of nowhere, and they're like, and they came out of the forest. They didn't come out of the door. They came out of the forest. Like that. That's some kind of creepy ghost stuff. Oh, now I'm climbing the mountain, fighting snowmen, taking names, hanging out, and just enjoying my time with all of you. So the very notion of having the player climb a mountain and go to a village on top of the mountain. That's a farming village. I've always loved the notion of farming communities up in the mountains. I've always loved that whole notion, the whole Tibetan thing. Like I love that. Like that is amazing. Oh, here we are, mountain village. Just take it all in. So these are their crops. So these are the crops. And you see those orbs. There, that's better. So these are the crops, and they're all magical and whatnot. And then you see these orbs floating around, right? Vroom! The little star orb buzzes softly. It watches the crops and drifts from row to row. No blade is needed here. This one is a watcher. And I always wanted, I love the notion, okay? The idea of societies that are broken away from the world and how technologically different they are from everyone else. It's like the notion of the story of Atlantis. I said notion, but whatever. It's like Atlantis. You look at Atlantis, everybody thinks, oh man, these guys were, what did they say? They were like, they had Bronze Age stuff when people were living in caves. And a part of me is like, okay, if that's true, and I'm saying, like, if that's true, and there was a society that was so technologically advanced, and outside of that, outside that place are people living in caves and huts and shanties, and there's an evil king or whatever. But these people have floating, twinkling orbs monitoring their farm crops and watching over their crops while they almost appear to be from another era. And it's just one of those things that just really blows my mind. It's just something I love so much. Harmonic light ripples across its glassy surface. It does not attack you. It studies your courage. A guardian presence hums in the air. Like, just it's like if you took a group of people and sent them to the 1800s, but with modern day stuff. Those people back then would be like, hey, those people are like witches. We should kill them or something. But I don't know. It's just one of those things I kind of think it's always fun. Like it's that suspension of disbelief, and you see that a lot in video games and movies and whatnot, and I just love it. Thorn Seer. Azthengar sits upon a throne of skulls and waits for footsteps brave enough to finish the climb of fate. He believes every skull beneath him is proof the world cannot oppose him. One day may he learn he built his throne for the witness of his own fall. And this is what I love about about telling a story, I know. I'm I'm proud, I'm bragging, I'm full of myself. I get that. And I apologize. It's just one of those things where I have pride in my work, and yeah, of course, it's top down tile movements. Whatever. I get it. It's not everybody's cup of tea. But knowing that I made something like this, it just blows me away. Because I started programming in high school. Like I learned QBasic in high school. Stopped for 10 years, tried learning C++, tried learning Python, nothing stuck with me. But QBasic, it stuck with me. I'm 41 years old. Like this is what like I'm blown away by it. Just this notion that I made like this real like this game. But anywho, that's enough me about bragging. So there's an engine priest. Prayer and mechanism are not enemies here. Our village is built like a starship that rooted itself into holy stone. This is why the houses glow and the fires never smoke. Now, this is the one thing I love about this area is because how the heck does he know what a starship is? You know? It's just one of those things that like I put it in there and I'm just like, yeah. So the player, and what I want from the player is the player to be like, yeah, you're right. It does look futuristic. And it is pretty cool. But wait a second. This is like a medieval game. What is this? What's going on? And that's just me. I like that. I actually think stuff like that is very fun. I think games and movies and people need to stop taking themselves so seriously because we are all dust in the wind. We only have so much time on this planet, and then it's over. So enjoy it. You know? I enjoy my life. Does it suck right now? Yeah, I lost my job. It sucks. Everyone's losing their jobs. It sucks. They want to create a welfare state and have AI run everything. It's stupid. You know? I'm only one person. I can't stop it. And the whole notion that it only takes one person is bull poo. Okay? Everything happens for a reason, and everything is controlled by those that you don't see. Star Farmer. The crops grow under mountain light and a buried machine hum. We plant in soil, but the roots drink from something older than rain. Eat what you can. The climb ahead will not be gentle. And this place right here is the whole area. It's like this hidden fortress, like this hidden village in the mountains where nothing should grow and nothing should live because of the altitude. But these people are doing it, and they make mention of machines and starships and what have you. I haven't done it yet. You're going to see, but it's just the building blocks, okay? So where is it? Those in the shadows see your every move. Do not forget to smile. Fear hates being greeted like an old friend. Smiling watcher. You see, I love putting those little notions in, like, hey, is this real? Is this reality? Chief Urix. It is an honor beyond measure that you made the climb and reached our village. Few are chosen to stand in a place crafted by gods and hidden in the mountain's machine-like heart. Azthengar sits upon a throne of skulls and waits. If you are ready, then watch the air itself answer you. What the? What is this place? Boom. You step through the newborn door and enter a place that feels built by gods and machines alike. Oh, wife's texting me. Let's see. Let me put on some music. Okay, and I'm back. She wanted to know if I wanted another $25 on the PlayStation credit store. She's awesome. So, anyways, yeah, so this is the God Way. And this, as you can see, is nothing more than a room with shrines. And I know that there are some people up here. I don't know what they're going to say, okay? Because I just put, this area looks like this because I'm planning something big, so I wanted to create kind of like a blank slate. And whenever I do a blank slate, I always put a ton of shrines here, just in case I want to kind of build like, I don't know, something grand. Like I have this idea that the Godway is something on another world like. It's something that transports the player almost like an abduction. Not a scary abduction. Not well, I guess all abductions are scary. If you don't, yeah, I guess yeah, they are all scary. But as a kid, I always loved the notion of space aliens abducting people. I remember as a kid, I was like 7 when Fire in the Sky came out. When did that come out? Maybe I was 10. Here, I gotta look this up because this is driving me crazy. Because I remember my dad renting it, and like, well, he worked night shift, right? So, and I believe it was summer vacation. Fire in the Sky. Fire in the Sky. Okay, let's see. 93, so 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I was 8 years old, okay? I was 8. And I remember watching the trailer as a kid. Just scared out of my freaking mind. Because I remember, I think Unsolved Mysteries was talking about it too, and there's like a documentary about it. Because the movie came out. And I just remember seeing them like all freak out, and they're in those weird like white like latex things, and their faces are covered, but their mouths are like gaped open, and you can see like, oh man, that scared the crap out of me. You know, like literally, that was awful. So yeah, so I wanted to do something like that because in the mindset of a fantasy game, of an RPG fantasy game, it's kind of crazy that they're space aliens. But then again, though, in Silent Hill, the video games, and uh, the notion that there's a space alien ending is always crazy. Where it's kind of like, wait, so is it a game, or is it just like, or are they just characters in a movie? Are the characters in a game and they know it's all fake, or is it all aliens? Like it's up to the your interpretation of it, right? Star scribed, the chief did not open a gate. He answered one that already knew your name. Remember the warning from below? Azthengar waits upon a throne of skulls. When the next phase is built, this road will carry you farther than any farm path ever could. So getting back on that, ooh, wait, let's see what this one says. This threshold is a made thing, not a human thing. It was built so the worthy would understand that wonder and dread are siblings. Ahead lies a road for a later chapter. The first door is all you are meant to touch today. Veiled Attendant. I always wanted to kind of have something like that in the game, where you're taking aboard something. See, I can't even go in there yet. See, boom. Okay, okay, okay. Boom, boom. There. So yeah, so this is I kind of wanted to have something unearthly, like a spaceship, like Fire in the Sky or something, but have it where you'll have to see. It's hard for me to describe, but I want you to see this. And I can't wait to show you because it's something that I think will really blow your mind. It's 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 just so much fun. And I know I keep talking about the game and showing it off, and I'm like a proud father in a way, I feel like whenever I play this game and I talk about it, it 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 does come off as me bragging and whatnot, but I feel like in something like this, bragging is warranted. I don't want you watching this video and saying like, "Oh man, this guy just brags and shows off." Like I don't want to watch this guy brag and show off. You know, what's the point of that? And I get it, and I get it. You know, what I'm trying to say is, I don't know. Pride always leads to downfall. I sure hope I don't have a downfall. That's a way to end a video, eh? Like cheese and crackers. So, so with that being said, I'm not going to be posting anything new on the weekend because I'm spending time with the family and I'm working around the house and we're doing yard work and whatnot and planting potatoes and what have you. So I wanted to kind of set the schedule for everyone. So like weekdays, yeah, okay, I'll post videos where I'm talking and showing off new aspects of the game. So when Monday comes around, expect like massive changes. I think you're really gonna love it, and I think you're gonna have fun. So download the game. Link in the description below. It's not this version though. It's the older version. It's the previous build. And the reason why that is that I'm building this one because I just keep building this game. I should really put out a new build. Uh, so next week sometime I'm going to be putting out the new build probably on the weekend. But I want you all to enjoy what you're seeing here today. And if you want to play the game and see for yourself what it's like, I suggest you go to my itch.io page and come out with and download the old build and give it a shot because when this one comes out, you're gonna love it. You're gonna freak out. And don't forget to visit my website, Azthengar.com, link in the description below as well, because that's where I post all my up to date stuff. I try to do it on itch, but I'm just like, ugh, I got the website for that. If you wanna watch or not watch, if you wanna read about, you know, the concepts and different stuff I'm adding to the game, or my views on the game and what I have to do and what have you about it, you can go visit there, Azthengar.com. All the links are going to be in the description below. So with that being said, take care, be good to one another, and have a safe weekend. Until next time, Godspeed.